Welcome back, subscribers. I'm going to talk architecture today. Okay. My background in general is I'm originally a remodeling contractor. That's what I really love to do. I love literal architecture, but we're going to talk. I'm going to weave that in to basically our matrix architecture, which is something else that I find highly interesting. I want to know how things work. I think human beings in general are very inquisitive, that they, are interested in these elements of like why things are the way they are. And excuse my attire. I usually have a nice dress shirt on whenever I present, but today's like casual Sunday, so it's early in the morning. It's 6 a.m. Sunday morning, and I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and um, I just kind of checked through some things, and I had a notification from my partner Frank, and Franklin had sent me. He went nuts. He sent me like 12 messages. He gets kind of on a tear. We'll have a personal conversation. We just recently like posted some of our conversations that he and I have, that we get really deep into the elements and things that are moving, and like basically how to position ourselves, because we kind of like to like be in the know like everybody else does before it happens, because then it creates it puts you in a way better mind space, because you understand like if you understand the why, then you can move on with your day. You don't get caught up in all of the rhetoric and the anxiety, which is not a healthy space to be in. It's not good for the mind. It's really terrible on the body. It will really wear you down. And I've always been that way. Now it's finally actually becoming more evident. My age on whenever I was actually birthed on this planet, because I'm getting feedback where I know that my methodology definitely works, because I don't take any performance enhancing drugs. I eat reasonably clean. I don't do anything crazy, but for somebody that's 50, people ask me like if I get carded in the store, for example. I'll get to where we're going after this. They're like, they think I have a fake ID, but it's backwards. They're like, why would your ID say 50? I'm going to be 51 this April. And so my body hasn't aged like other people's bodies have aged, because that's just the way that I've always done, because I'm inquisitive and I ask questions and I want to know why, and I want to understand the architecture. Because what happens is that the anxiety level just evaporates out of you, and then you can kind of get on with your day and do the things that you really want to do, and do your daily do, and be fulfilled. And it so is within is without. So whatever is happening internally inside of your mind and body is all an accumulative environment, and then that shows out on your physical as well. And you can tell people that are very healthy, happy people is that they're either total idiots or they actually they've got a really good handle on how this reality runs. And so it's starting to become really evident as the days tick by um, uh, that my methodology is bearing its fruit, if you will. So you reap what you sow, right? So that's what we really try to do is put information out there that gets you calmed down, so that you don't have monkey brain, and you understand why things are the way that they are, and how this earth runs, and how it runs like a business. And it's there's a hierarchical element to the way that humanity is supposed to be managed. And once you get over that, then you get out of all of the everyday rhetoric. I still stay up on the news stories, but it doesn't have a uh, a resonance effect on myself, body, and mind, spirit. It just doesn't. If you can balance that triplicity of energy, body, mind, spirit, it's the world is your oyster. It's everything starts to plane out, and you you can see clarity day to day. And that's really what our information is creating an internalized community that allows that to happen, for people that are either at the cusp of that, like, or they're in the side of that mind space. And we can kind of get on with it and get on with business. And that's really what's important. So anyway, Frank sends me these, like 12 messages, and he's sending like clips from like a couple of X accounts and things, and he and I will have a private conversation, and I'll say like, hey, you need to kind of look into this. You need to look into this. And because I know about things, I have my own sources, and I don't withhold information from him, but he's very inquisitive and asks a lot of questions, and it gets me motivated to either check my sources or to do a little bit more research on things that I understand and know based upon cycles. So we have like smaller cycles that happen week to week, year to year, decade to decade, and so on, right? So we have we're hitting a 7-year cycle again. So there's a 7-year large. It's not like a large one, but it's a longer cycle that's happening. And I just recently had some things that happened to me on a personal level that are repeating. It's the same repeat energy. Meaning like it's exactly the same basic experience again. And things that are very like pretty large inside of your space, where it disrupts what is potentially going on in your day to day. And I just brought this up, and I talked about this also tunes into the architecture of the environment and how this works. So basically, our reality is it's like what Nikola Tesla says, everything is frequency. So it's frequency meaning it's like how frequent does it come up? Okay, it's a frequency. So it's a sine wave. So it's a peak and a trough. Okay. And how that plays out in the duration of the frequency between each one of those periods is something that you can look out for once you become aware of it. You have to live on this planet long enough to be able to see your own personal vibratory frequency and how it applied to the reality. Meaning, like, how do you react time and time again? That's as simple as that. And because we're all creatures of habit. Now, you can reverse that whenever you become aware. You can change those habits. All right. So it's not set in stone. It is. You can vector off of it, okay, if you will, and create tangents and move into other spaces. But ultimately, your own personal constitution, whatever makes you you, and your soul that's connected to your body, it's going to be pretty much the same thing every time. And this just known. It's a known thing. So that's where the real true I don't know, savants, if you will, that are inside the spiritual community, or the intellects that are the ones that have been beating this drum of how basically things run, like the Manly P. Halls and the Jordan Maxwells and so on, the ones that were like trying to identify to people. Even Jesus is a great example of that. Like he's talking in parables, but he's trying to explain to people like, hey, like he's explaining it in like real things and real elements, and also in these parables, but he's explaining like what you're supposed to be doing internally inside of your body, mind, and spirit. It's supposed to be this changeover whenever you have an event or something that happens to you in your life. And it's the way that you react at the moment that it's happening, and that you can change it. You can change those things. And so he'd sent me this information, and it's what's happening in these periodicities is that I told him, I said, I'm in a repeat. I'm right now, currently, I said, it's whatever happened to me started basically back in like 2013. It started probably 2012. I don't say 2012 because everybody uses that because the Mayan calendar and all that crap. So, but really, it really started to become identifiably noticeable 2013 to 14, somewhere in that range. And then it just continued to really ramp up, and my awareness of things became like, it was just like off the charts, to the point where I had to like kind of like throw the brakes on it, because it was disrupting my day-to-day affairs and things like that. These like communications things that I was getting. So I told him, I said, 2 weeks ago, I went and picked up this car out in California and had a car built, and it took 5.5 years to build this car. Okay, I give the guy down payment, da, 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 da. So it was like an arduous task, and it's custom car, and it's something that I had extra income from doing really well in crypto. So I ended up, getting this car built and sent him a down payment, so on and so on. But at any rate, it took 5.5 years to get the car finished and built. And I found later that after I talked to the guy, like he has a lot of like higher end clients, and I think I was just kind of like, I don't know. I think I was kind of shelved. Like my project wasn't like as important. Plus, I didn't put any heat on the guy the whole time. I never called him one. I would call him periodically just to be like, hey, what's going on? Like, what are you doing? Because it really wasn't like a need. I didn't need to have the car. So I wasn't going to like let that distort my energy and the perception of the experience, And like when we test drove the car, just kind of give you an idea, we test drove the car out in California when we were supposed to pick it up. That's part of this story, is that he said, oh, don't lose the plate on the car. Like, I'm going to lose the plate on the car. And I'm like, why would you say that? He's like, yeah, it's Shaun White's plate. And I was like, the snowboarder? He's like, yeah, I'm building him a car. I was like, oh, that's cool. I said, all right. So anyway, it's like that type of clientele. And that my interpretation of that was like, okay, that's also another kind of reason why he's kind of dragged his feet, not getting the project done, because I'm not Shaun White, there's not like any celebrity behind me. And so anyway, this car. So rewind again, frequency and repetitiveness. 2018, I ordered a BMW M3. 2018 BMW M3 competition package. Like, it's a really cool car. And I just really wanted a manual transmission car. I wanted a manual, and I had never really ordered a car. I always just get the ones that are off the lot and get deals and stuff on cars. And this one, I was like, I want it my way. I'm going to do it like my way. And so that's what I did, and I had everything all set up. We did European delivery, where you can go over to BMW. Didn't do this anymore, but you go over to Europe and drive it around. Registration, insurance, and everything is all covered by BMW. You can drive it around all over Europe and then drop the car off after 2 weeks. Mercedes does this still. Porsche does this. So, but I'm talking about frequency. This sounds like rich guy shit, but I'm just saying, like, it's like, this is all about frequency. All right. So anyway, I'm supposed to drive the car around there. It's part of my trip. It's like a 10-day family trip that I took my family over there. I was going to be, to go tour Bavaria and drive the car around. Car wasn't ready. I mean, I had this thing set up like to the tick, and it's BMW. So like, how is it not done? Like, what is the problem? Like, and the guy told me, the sales guy, it's like, I told him, I said, I'm setting this trip up. Da, 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 da. He's like, oh, this will be it. This, we've been doing this for years. He said, once it gets inside the queue and the car gets started, he said, it's a done deal. It'll be done by this date. And then you can pick it up at that. The car was done, but they didn't have the paperwork done. So, and it was pre-COVID, so there was really no reason. It was like the old way, how everything all used to work. So it didn't work, so I ended up renting a car, which all worked out. And I got a wagon. It was better than, driving the family around an M3. So anyway, so I got the car, but I didn't really get the car. All right. It's automobile associated frequency, right? And then after that, in that year, my wife and I, it was like 29, it was like 18 to 19. My wife and I, we've been married for like 25 years. We ended up getting separated. Okay. And it was already, we had been having issues for like years, and it wasn't like, the car wasn't my midlife crisis or any of that bullshit. It was just, like, again, just frequency. It's just things that are coming time. So again, like when I'm looking at just those two elements, and I've had many of the other ones, because I've been saying this actually for, I knew something was going on with the car, that the car was going to be kind of like some kind of a hinge point, if you will, in what's going on in my day to day. So basically, like when you start discovering these frequency repetitions in your life, you can just, prepare for like kind of the next element. Like, like the next peak or trough is coming, and that you can kind of prepare for it mentally. Like, you can't really stop it. It's coming. But you can at least kind of semi-prepare for it, like mentally, like get yourself into a better mindset to know that something's going to be coming at you. It's kind of like, Yep. Like I played a lot of baseball when I was younger. So if you know what the pitcher's throwing, it's not a guarantee you're going to hit it, but you at least you got a way better chance of making contact. So, car situation, breakup of a relationship situation. So go to California, get this car. The guy's like, yeah, you pick it up. Da, 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 da. Kate and I fly out to California and we're going to drive it back, which thank God we didn't. Again, it's the same type of thing. Like I didn't want to drive that. We drove across country because I've never done it before. She's done it and she's like, yeah, you should do it at least once just to kind of see what the country looks like, like really see it. And she was right. And, get there, drive it. Morning, we're supposed to leave. I kid you not, 30 minutes before I'm supposed to leave, pick up the car, go to a shop, pick up the car. We're having breakfast. He calls me and says, the car won't start. And I'm thinking, like, this guy, I swear. So, rebooted, and I ended up shipping the car back, and we rented a car and still did the trip. So same kind of story of what happened in Germany. And again, it's like, well, how many times you've heard stories where people have like had cars either, built, made, whatever else, and it's something that's kind of large, like there's a big traveling that's involved in it. Like me going to Germany to pick up my car, like nobody really does that, right? And then not being actually really drive it on the streets in Germany, be like, which they said that you could do. And then same thing. It's like how many people, get a custom car and you keep adding these stories and you're like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like that's like that. Yeah, that's kind of bigger. Like, do you do this stuff all the time? Like, no, but it comes in periodicity. See? So anyway, I started paying attention to this. And when we came back, it was bothering me the whole trip across because it took about 7 days to come across. And I said, I had other things that were happening to me that were pre the car. And I said, remember, I was telling Kate this. I said, I remember that there were these elements and things that were going to be changing in this periodicity. Because I had been recognizing some other things that were going on in my life that were very similar to what was going on back in that period, before the car thing. And so it was like, there were other elements and things like that. And I started paying attention to it. And then the car thing happened. And I'm like, oh shit, this is real. Because this is kind of what we call it in the psychic community would be a node point. Okay. And that's a really important element. And you pay attention to that. You're like, okay, the car thing is a car to car time, 2018. Okay. With 2026, we're at a node point. And it's not, it's a little past the 7-year periodicity, but it's within reason. You know what I mean? It's like, again, and it's a strange element because it's a car. And I told her, I said, something's going to happen. Somebody's going to break up. There's going to be some kind of a breakup and it's going to be semi-disruptive. Things are going to keep trucking like it did whenever my former wife, we split. My family and everything kept this going the same. It was like pretty amicable. So it was just kind of like, I just don't want to be with you anymore. I want to be with you. Okay, that's great. So, same type of thing. So I'm like, it's not catastrophic. And Kate was like, well, we're really good. I'm like, yeah, I don't see anything, I don't, there's nothing, I'm not concerned about us. I said, it's just like on the periphery. I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be with us. It just has to be inside of our space in general. And it really troubled me. And last Sunday, my daughter, it was like Sunday night. And I told Kate, she was at the house because she flips and flops back between her house and my house. And she was there, and I was like, gosh, I said, this is really bugging me. I said, I just can't get this out of my head. I said, something's going to happen. The next morning, my daughter calls me. My little daughter, Ella, calls and says, like, she's splitting up with this guy that she's been with for 6 years. And she asked if she could, she wants to come back to Raleigh, and I was like, yeah, absolutely, totally. And I was like, and I immediately called Kate, and I'm like, oh my gosh, guess what? I said, it's like the prophecy came true. Holy cow. So, so anyway, you're like, well, what, Danny, what does that have to do with that's your personal shit? Like, we don't care about that. All right, I get it. So, but I'm just telling you, like, when I start paying attention to frequencies, and you can do the same thing too, that you start noticing that there's repeat experiences and be like, well, what's the next thing that happened? Be like, well, there was an accident that happened to me where I was second degree burns from the knees down to my, well, like over top of my feet, and I couldn't walk for like basically 2 months. It's really, really, really bad. 360 degrees around my legs. There was a atomization of fuel that hit me on a project that we were doing, and it just so happened I had shorts on and like dock shoes, which I always wear dock shoes. And anyway, it just like instantly like flash burned that skin on my body, and it was really, 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 really bad. Yeah. So so anyway, it was like pain. It was like a lot of pain. And I said to Kate, I was like, well, I think I've already been experiencing the pain. I said, for the past year. I said, I'm hoping that's what it is, because I have mentioned this to her, is that I've had some hip issues where, from sitting a lot and not exercising your pelvic floor and your midsection, like I'm like in pretty good shape, way better than most at my age. But it's sometimes the muscles that are, the guys don't work their pelvic floor muscles. So like as you start aging, they just start like kind of like, atrophying, and then you start having like a lot of problems. And I just had, it was like an onion peel. Every time I would, like kind of repair one thing, then something else would, so it was just this constant back and forth and back and forth. And it was really bad. I couldn't sleep at night, and it was really, really bad. And now, so basically about a year of pain and discomfort that I lived with, and that was basically the same. So if I'm offsetting it, even though that the timing frequency doesn't work out so hot, it's pretty similar, because I'm still kind of contending with it, but it's still something that's been it's not as flashed as this burning when I caught on fire. But it's pretty similar, the amount of like energy and anguish that's been behind it. Okay, so it's pretty similar. I said, I hope that's what it is. I said, because I don't want to catch on fire again, because that really was not good. I said, that really hurt me bad. So anyway, after that is whenever COVID happened, and then, the financial system kind of broke, and then oil goes to -40, so on and so on. So it was like major financial upheaval. But then also I got into crypto, and I became like I was in really, really good shape financially. And I was like really driven towards it. It wasn't like I was watching videos like, oh my gosh, I need to go to BitBoy and check out what he's talking about with crypto. And be like, no, 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 no. I was like, I'm getting like basically like source energy, like, you need to go do this. And so that's what's on the horizon. So what are we looking at? We're looking at, again, like source architecture, and how I'm seeing these things like playing out in my personal, and also how things are playing out currently right now on the world stage, which it's a theater. You have to look at it like it's just play. And I get it. There's blood being spilled and lives being shed, and it's not the best situation. But what is when you pull back and you look at it, but like, what is the product? I always say this, like, what is going to come out of it? And ultimately, the United States is removing itself out of the Middle East, and it's going to be more centralized over the Americas, like just America. Like when you look this up, America is considered actually the North and South. It's like both of them. That's the America. So they call it the Americas. So anyway, centralized in that area. And then this is part of what Franklin had sent me. He sent me, this is also part of the frequency element of what I'm talking about, and how this architecture works, is that as things start getting closer to these major node points, if you will, of things that are happening, you find things. You'll find my video. You'll find somebody else's information about like basically how this whole reality works. They start noticing things, and it's kind of bonkers. It's weird, but you can't deny it, because it's happening. It's happening again. And it's like, okay, I'm throwing you a fastball, outside corner. Like, are you going to make contact, or am I going to strike you out? So that's basically the way I look at it. He sends me these videos, and they're clips from an X channel from a guy that started using AI to plug in data points. Now, the AIs work really great if you know the right questions to ask. It actually, Claude particularly is really, really good at you basically kind of like customizing your own AI. And there isn't, at least from what we know, I think there's probably outside intervention that's in it, but it's from what we've seen, it's the cleanest one that's out there. But anyway, he's been plugging in these data points with some of the elements and things that I'm talking about. Now, I don't know this guy, but that's how Frank found him. He's like, oh, dude, it's the same stuff, exactly the same stuff. And he got really interested in the histories and finding out, like, these cycles, same type of stuff. And but the thing with Claude is Claude can go out and go dig through anything that is out in, that has been published. And the way that these magicians run this planet, all right, the governments and the hierarchies and the ruling families and all that stuff, it's a real thing. The way they do it is they have to tell you they're going to do it before they do it. And they do this by publishing it. And the internet's great because they can publish it and post and put something out on the internet, and it's technically published, but if you don't know the website to go to and the documents, you're never going to find it. But by technical standards, it's part of it. All right. And when you sign a contract stating, whenever signing a contract is whenever you open your phone, you get a brand new phone and you go through all those acknowledgments. Okay. Part of that is that you're basically giving up your material, and you're also, able to absorb the material. So it's like, it's a two-way street. So they're, okay, well, now you signed this contract, we can do whatever we want. We're going to tell you what we're going to do so we can run our, voodoo magic behind the scenes and run the system. And it removes their, from what we understand, it's a karmatic debt. It enables them to, whatever, warmonger, whatever they want to do. And it takes the karmatic energy off of them. They can just do whatever they want. So anyway, they embed that into, thousands of pages of legislation that goes through the governments, or whatever it comes through, acts and executive orders and so on and so on. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, and acts that happen between country to country or jurisdiction to jurisdiction. It could be like South America, North America, or the EU with Africa or whatever. All that stuff is published, but most people don't know what it is. So this guy has discovered this, and he started going through Claude and putting it all together, and basically putting together, like, what is the perspective? Like, where are we heading? So again, it's the same stuff. Me talking about my cars and my relationships, stuff like that. So it's a cycle. So but this cycle, this economic changeover, is a cycle that goes, like, this is hundreds of years. All right. We're talking like the establishment, what we know of the United States and the colonies, to, this next generation of economy that we're going to be going into. And what it's doing is it's rewriting the kind of like the orders of operation, like what territory is going to be responsible for what territory, and if our military is required to be in all these different spaces all over the place, that's not going to happen anymore. It's going to stay more centralized over the Americas, because they're going to have their hands full. Because the plan, we've kind of laid this out in our conversations, is that the plan is the South America is going to be not colonized, because it already was, but developed. It's going to be developed. So in order for that to happen, you're going to have to flush out narcos and all kinds of other stuff, build roads, which means you're going to have the military, which is already there. We're going to have more military that's going to be in South America, making sure everybody's following the rules. And then, so that means we'll pull out of the Middle East and pull out of Europe and all that, and consolidate more in the Americas. So anyway, when he had sent me this, I was like, oh, he was excited, because he sent it to me, let's see, 12 o'clock. So it would have been like 9 o'clock his time. He's in LA. And I start reading through it, and I'm like, oh yeah. And I start going through the videos and listening to what the guy was saying. I was like, oh, this is really great. So he's moved forward in using Claude as, and he knows enough of the language to basically map out where we're going. Like, cut to the chase, where are we going? So this isn't financial advice. So we know, like, cycles are repeating cassette. And so the next thing is a financial, um, I don't know what they're going to call it. They always have some kind of like they like to coin it. They like to uh, declare it with something, like we had the financial. I'm trying to, it eludes me the name of it, the 2008 crash. I can't, I can't, I'm not thinking about that right now. So I'm like, I can't tune into it. But so 2008, whenever that happened, that was kind of an identifier. The To sort of kick off the financial upheaval and things to be changing. So I said COVID was a really big one, and COVID was really a time to basically shut down the planet and basically create an inventory. So whenever you inventory stock in a store, just in a business in general, you close the doors and then you go through and you take inventory and you count everything. Okay, you account for everything, and that's what COVID did. So that's why it was worldwide and why it was really important. They covered it as a pandemic, but ultimately it had to do with shutting things down so that you could take inventory and know where commodities were, ships were, and all those things, and identify them. And so we're going to be heading into another one of those type events. I'm not really too sure what it is. Again, it's like pretty vague. Like I said, about the car, or my relationship thing, or with somebody else's relationship or mine. I'm still having to contend with it. And it's not financial advice, but how I'm positioning myself is I've already been in this space where I'm in crypto. I'm in specifically like Bitcoin. The big ones: Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP. But equities, no, not in them. I'm actually considering shorting, picking up some long put positions on some equities that I've been looking at. And because we think that we're probably in this, like, what's called like a quickening phase, like stealing some terminology from Highlander, that whenever chess moves, you play chess, like once the moves start happening, it goes really, 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 really fast. All right. So, US is Operation Epic Fury kicks off. I talked about Hegseth, cutting off the education for the military and the upper brass. And it's funny, when I did that video, I forgot to post it. I actually did the video like the day after I saw it come out in the news. And because I went to California and I missed it when I didn't post it. But there's moves that are being made. It doesn't seem like that's like really important, but it's a really important element, because it's like you can see there's a consolidation effect that's occurring. Again, think of it like a chess game. So they're just kind of like cordoning off specific elements that are inside the government and the military to be able to make sure they have like a continuity of government, and establishing like we're in control and we're not going to let these other parties manipulate situations. And the reason is because they're essentially triggering the events. So they're the ones that stir up the hornet's nest, which then causes repercussions to happen, which is really bizarre, because you wouldn't think that would be the case. Like, well, why do you need to go over there and stir up the hornet's nest? Because they want retaliation to come back against the U.S., which will then, again, what's the product? The retaliation will then cause market upheavals, which we're seeing right now in the fuel prices in the United States. Okay, which what's the product? Fuel prices increase, costs of everything goes up, and people stop buying more. They stop traveling more. That's the product. And what happens to the economy as that continues to keep moving forward? Everybody, a lot of people were already at the point where they couldn't really afford there to be an increase. All right. And now you add, a 25% increase in fuel costs, or whatever it is, depending upon where you're at. And that's going to break people. So on the civil side, you're going to see riot elements. You're going to see elements of things that are going to be very newsworthy, but it's going to be justifiable because people are at the end of their rope, and it's sad to see that. They're going to go beyond the point where they're just writing on a sign and picketing on the corner. It's going to go like bonkers. You're going to see elements of that. You're going to see businesses evaporate and go away. You're going to see, pension funds and people's retirements and things like that go away. And you're going to start to see that trickle effect is going to end up ultimately hitting the market, which is going to affect everyone's like pensions, 401ks, whatever. So even if you're in something that is going to be moving forward through into the new system, like it's slated to be, okay to move into the new system, like they're playing by the new rules. I've already talked about this with ESG and some of the companies and like how to look them up. It's on our private site. I'm in cash, and the US dollar is going to be still part of the system. It's not going away. It's part of the system, but it's moving over towards the United States is using US stablecoin, which would be like USDC or maybe the Trump coin, like the stable coin platform, if you will. So that's like the Genius Act. It's about stable coins, plural. It's not just a US stable coin dollar, like a CBDC, like in Europe. It's not like that. They're really kind of, opening the floodgates that as long as your crypto coin or project is able to be compliant inside of this stablecoin act, you can have a stable coin. That's fine. So there's rules that are behind it, which is again part of this whole Genius Act. It's a pretty smart way to do it, and the U.S. really has the ability to do that because we're a different bunch than what's over in Europe. Europe, they just kind of like they're still kind of like under that kind of like kingdom energy, where they want a centralized authority that governs over the entire space to tell them what to do. Whereas in the US, we're like more the doer side. We want to be the innovators. We want to be flexible and free to do whatever we want. And that, so the US version is a lot more expansive and allows for, that's why we're not using a centralized digital currency. We're going to be using a stable coin, like a variance. It'll be many stable coins. But ultimately, in order for them to be issued, they have to buy U.S. treasuries. There's rules that are behind it, okay, which ultimately like supports the dollar. So anyway, time-wise and periodicity. Feel like finally you get to it. You've been at this for like 37 minutes. All right, I'm going to finish this. This summer, I think it's going to be somewhere between, let's see, so we're in March. Ides of March. We passed the Ides of March. There'll be some kind of. I haven't looked up some of the names on some of the war vessels that are over in the Middle East. But it was something that just popped into my head that I need to look at some of the gematria that's on that. But ultimately, the end point is we think from our data is like September 11th will be like this September 11th will be kind of coming out of that space. So that means that you're looking at, I've been planning this for a while, somewhere between like June, July, August is going to be like the main concentration of whenever you're going to get the biggest surge in media, the news and everything else to be covering this chaotic situation that's going to be happening financially and that type of shit, that they're going to be really like chumming it. So where does that put me? Like, what's the product? Well, I've been thinking about this for years because I've known about this was going to be happening. And now that it's finally here, I prepared for it years ago. My concerns were like, I have a small business. I'm like, well, it's kind of a niche business. It's probably going to get jacked. I'm like, it's like, I already knew that years ago. So I had already been planning for that. I'm like, well, so if I don't really have an income in that business anymore, is there something else that I can fall back on? Is there, I need to start planning for those things because I know that there's going to be a very major squeeze on business in the US in general. It's going to go across the board. And basically, like everybody's going to get a haircut. Is the best way to describe it. And that's really what the big concern is, I guess, like moving forward. So it's not necessarily catastrophic. You'll just end up like doing something different, and that's I guess I'm just kind of the eternal optimist. Like if I'm not supposed to be doing it, in the next 5 or 10 years, be like, why don't I just get rid of it now? I'll just be done with it. I'll just go do something else. So I kind of focuses my efforts towards like, really charging forward and moving towards something that I want in the future, instead of like trying to like, keep it going. You know what I mean? Like just try to like, well, just keep squeaking by. And once you see the writing on the wall and you see that, day in and day out that you're losing revenue in your business, or things are getting more expensive for you as a personal consumer, so on and so on, that you just have to be like, okay, I need to start, like cutting things off. Things aren't going to be coming back. This is a trick that the home builders used to do to us as subcontractors, the national home builders. And they would just be like, oh, they'd blow smoke up our ass. They'd be like, oh, everything is great. Yeah, keep your crews going. Oh, the work's right around the corner. Don't worry about it. In the meantime, we're paying our employees like, out of our own pockets to keep things going, because you don't want to lose people. Our labor market in Raleigh is like really super competitive. So like you'd have to keep paying guys even if they weren't working, because you're getting told and lied to by the national home builders like, hey, everything's great, don't worry about it. And that's what's happening right now in the US with the media circus that's going on. So they're giving you this fictitious space to believe that things are going to continue moving in that direction, that they're just going to like everything go back to normal crap. And that's absolutely not going to be the case. But so once that realization gets kicked in, then there'll be like kind of this Phoenix Rising event that will come out. And that's ultimately what their interests are. So into the event, the hammer would be dropping like around this summer is what we're planning. Maybe late spring, early, somewhere between late spring and summer. And something that's a polarizing unification type of event, which then gives justification for why they're changing and doing all the things that they're doing. Very similar to the Patriot Act and all the thing where we saw, Congress on the steps of the Capitol building, and they're all singing God Bless America, and they're all like joining hands, and they're all, all buddies. And it's ultimately like, hey, you guys set all this stuff up. You guys had all this documentation. Like people that, they just had the Patriot Act, just like they just drafted it overnight. Really, no, it was already there. So it's all scripted. It's all run a script. And like once you get over the fact of being pissed off about all that, then you're like, okay, well, what am I going to do with it? Like, okay, I need to get over myself, and I need to stop beating myself up over, like me living inside of this just jacked up reality. And whether it's in the US or any other country on this planet, is that it's all manipulated and rigged. So once you get past that, and you get past the whole freedom element in the US and everything else that they've drummed up in your mind, which is all another propaganda piece, it gets you into looking at like, what's the product? How do I position myself so that I know, like, I'm just going to go ahead and start moving towards this new space. All right. Just do that, like just be intelligent to be moving into the space. So preparing yourself and saying like, okay, if I'm more of in a cash situation, and if I have it in bank accounts, I have in multiple bank accounts, so that if something happens to one bank, that I'll still be able to access my capital, and so stuff like that. So again, it's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, and the information I put out is just it's just entertainment. Hey, we'll just see what happens. So I'm going to put this up and timestamp it, and we'll just see what happens, because there's so much energy that's behind this, and they have to follow some sort of a calendar to get everybody on board with it, because it's not a free for all. That's the one thing that I think is both kind of soothing on one hand, but also very scary. So meaning that they're doing it directly. The powers that be that run the planet, and the administrators, the governments and presidents and so on, are doing the bidding, and they're following through with orders. All right. And because this project is so large, they have to go by specific dating to be able to have that happen. So they're going to give a variance and say like, well, this stuff has to be all cleaned up by, the 2030, it has to be all done. So they just kind of start working back by All right, well, if I have to clean up this and this and this and this, then all right, let's make it 2028, and then that'll give us a couple of years just to kind of get all the rest of the things in place. So the major element and shock is what we're anticipating is going to be by the summer. Summer, I'd say, if you just kind of put on a calendar, September 11th, 2026 to, well, we're almost in April now. So somewhere in that frame is going to be something that's going to be written in the history books. That's going to be a major element that's going to change the economics and the way businesses run worldwide. All right, and it's going to be the precursor to it, and then the product is this new system that we've been talking about with RWAs and all that other crap. So anyway, more to come, and I've been rambling long enough. It's 45 minutes. It's terrible. I try to keep them short, but I just I get excited. So anyway, cheers.